Hi. Very often people ask me, hey, do you have your favorite math equation? Or do you have your favorite math identity? Yes, absolutely, I do have one, and it is e to the power of 420 by I to the power of 69 minus 1 equals to 0. So that's because this identity combines one of the most important mathematical constants, such as e, pi, I, 1, and 0, as well as the 42069 meme in one beautiful equation. And whenever people see this equation, they ask me, hey, is it the actual thing? Does it work? Yes, it does. And in this video, we're going to have a look at why it works. So to start with, let's try to calculate what is e to the power of 420 by I to the power of 69 minus 1 is. To start with, let's try to analyze how do we actually raise I to the power of 69. Now, what is I? I is the imaginary number, and I equals to the square root of minus 1. Okay, so what happens if we raise I to the power of 2? So that means we have to raise the square root of minus 1 to the power of 2, which is minus 1. Now, what is I cubed? That will be I squared times I. Now, we know that I squared is minus 1. So for the I cubed, we get minus 1 times I, which is minus I. Now, what do we get if we raise I to the power of 4? That would be I cubed times I. And we know that I cubed equals to minus I. And we have to multiply it by I, which gives us minus I squared. And I squared is minus 1. So we got minus 1. Minus and minus will give us plus, so we get 1. So that means every time when we raise I to the power of multiple of 4, we get 1. For example, I to the power of 4 equals to 1. What is the next multiple of 4? It's 8. So I to the power of 8 will be also 1. I to the power of 16 will be 1. I skipped I to the power of 12, and so on and so forth. Now, remember, we're trying to raise I to the power of 69. Now, how many 4s can we fit into 69? 69 divided by 4 would be, that will be 17.25. So that means we can fit 4 into 69 17 times, and we'll get some remainder. Now, what is the remainder? Let's multiply 17 by 4, and we get 68. So that means the remainder is 1. That means we can write I to the power of 69 as I to the power of 68 times I. Now, I to the power of 68, being I to the power of multiple of 4, would be 1. So that means I to the power of 69 is just I. So our original equation, e to the power of 420 pi I to the power of 69 minus 1, let's write it down. Is actually e to the power of 420 pi I minus 1. Okay, so that was our first step to analyze this equation. Now, how do we raise e to the power of a complex number? Namely, what would be e to the power of 420 pi I? Now, let's remember that a complex number can be written in two forms. So the first one is going to be the exponential form. So that means e to the power I theta, where theta is the argument of the complex number. And that could be written as cosine theta plus I sine theta. Now, look at our original question. So, e to the power of 420 pi I. We can see that 420 pi is the argument of our complex number. That means e to the power of 420 pi I can be written as cosine 420 pi plus I sine 420 pi. Okay, now let's calculate what is going to be cosine 420 pi. Well, for that you can just use a calculator, just make sure you switch it into radians. But let's remember how the graph of cosine looks like. So when x equals to 0, cosine is equal to 1. And it goes like that. So this is y equals to cosine x. Okay. So when x equals to 0, y equals to 1, this is pi over 2, pi, 3 pi, oh, sorry, it's 2 pi. Oh, 3 pi over 2. And finally 2 pi. Okay, now just by looking at this graph, we can see that every time we hit 2 pi radians, cosine equals to 1. And 420 pi is the multiple of 2 pi. So cosine of 420 pi equals to 1. Now, what's going on with the sine 420 pi? Again, if you're looking for a shortcut, you can just use a calculator, switch it to radians, and find sine 420 pi, but we'll have a look at the graph. Sine x starts from 0, 0, and it goes like this. Pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Now we can see that every time when x is a multiple of pi, sine is 0. Now that would mean that sine of 420 pi equals to 0. Now let's go back. we've got cosine 420 pi, and we know that it equals to 1. So it's 1 plus I, and sine 420 pi is 0. So I times 0, that means it equals to 1. Okay, so now let's try to combine all of this together. We started from e to the power of 420 pi I to the power of 69 minus 1. And we've shown that this equals to e to the power of 420 pi I minus 1. And at the step 2, we have shown that e to the power of 420 pi I equals to 1. So this is 1. And all in all, we got 1 minus 1, which is 0. So here we go, e to the power of 420 pi I to the power of 69 minus 1 equals to 0. So yes, this identity, which combines one of the most important mathematical constants, e, pi, I, 1, and 0, as well as some memes about 420 and 69, is actually true. Well, if you have any other mathematical equation which combines memes, or if you have your own favorite mathematical identity or formula, please let me know in the comments to this video. Bye!